Hi, this is Kim from Dorothy's Daughter. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Friday Sewing School. Friday Sewing School comes out of my heart to share my love for sewing and teach others to do the same. So we were in the middle of sewing a t-shirt last time, and we should have it all cut out and ready to sew together. We talked about how to handle knits. We talked about cutting them out using pattern weights and a rotary cutter and why that's important. I would highly encourage you to go back and watch the last two videos if you have not done so. So I'm going to go ahead and put this t-shirt together and take you step by step. I have pinned the shoulder seams together, right sides together. And I'm just going to go ahead and sew these seams 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm using a narrow zigzag stitch rather than a straight stitch because it stretches. I'm using this Liverpool and it's very stretchy and feels like it's going to snag really easy. But I'm going to use a little bit longer stitch for this Liverpool. Seems the stitches were kind of getting buried in there. Don't sew over pins. Easy way to mess up your machine. Three-eighths seam allowance. All right, now my shoulder seams are done. There's no need to finish these seams since it's a knit. It isn't necessary. Now I would have normally serged these, but it's not necessary to do that with a knit. I'm going to take this over to the iron now and press these seams open. If you had used a serger, you just press them to one side or the other, usually toward the back. But since I do have a serger, but I'm pretending that I don't today so that I can show you how to do this on a regular machine. You've used a narrow zigzag stitch, good strong seam, and I'm going to press these seams open. Now we're going to take our neckband and we're going to sew the center back seam in your neckband. See how knits want to curl sometimes, and it can be frustrating, but so worth it. All right, just going to put needle down in there. 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. No stretching. At this point, you don't want to stretch it. Now we're going to take this to the ironing board. We're going to press this open, and we're going to press this folded all the way around so that it's one folded band all the way around. So now you have your neckline and your neckband. Your neckband is pressed folded. This Liverpool does not press really well. So you want to find your center back of your neckline and just match that seam that you made to the right side of the fabric. You're going to pin that there. Now your pattern may have notches, but one easy way to know exactly where this is going to be sewn to is I quarter it. So I take and fold the band in half at the center back, put a pin there, and that is my center front. So I'm going to find the center front of my neckline right here. And I'm going to, making sure that it's not twisted or anything, I'm going to put the center front right here. Okay, so now you have the two sides, but so that you know exactly where those go, what you're going to do is you're going to fold and bring those two pins together to find the halfway point. And if your pattern has notches, you can just use that, but this is another easy way, a cheating way, I guess. You bring those two together, find the halfway point. It's usually going to be a little bit down the neckline. Or just use the notches on your pattern. I'm going to put a pin there. I'm going to put a pin there, so that you have equal 4 parts around your neckline, so you know how much to stretch it. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing with the band. I'm going to bring the back and the front together, and there's my halfway point. Put a pin there, and there's my other halfway point. I'm going to put a pin there. So you have the halfway points marked on both the shirt and the band. All right, now we're going to go ahead and pin those together. All right, so now I have my band pinned into my neckline. Now we're going to take that to the sewing machine. All right, I'm going to start at the center back. Now what you want to do with this, again, it's 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So what you want to do with this is you want to keep the shirt piece flat and stretch the band to fit all the way around. And again, you're using your narrow zigzag stitch. Alright, so once you have your neckband sewn on, you're going to take it over to your ironing board, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to trim the excess seam allowance away. Trim it down to about 1/4 of an inch. All right, once you have that all trimmed, got a few threads here that shouldn't be there, you're going to go ahead and press it so it's laying down nice and neat. It seems to have a lot of nylon in it, so whenever you've got a lot of nylon in something, you want to be really careful when you press, because it could just melt. But I think it's okay. It doesn't press real well, but the iron doesn't seem to mess with it too much, but it also doesn't press real nicely. This is called Liverpool. It's a double knit. Now, some t-shirt patterns will tell you to go ahead and top stitch this seam allowance down around here. Catching the seam allowance in, going all the way around here. I prefer to do that last when I'm doing my hemming because I like to do it with a double needle. The neckline is done, except for this top stitching, which I'm going to do toward the end. All right, now we're going to put our sleeves in. So I'm going to pin this here and then take it over to the machine. All right, so usually you can tell when a pattern has notches. If there's two notches, 2 and 1, it's because the back piece has 2 notches and the front piece has 1. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin my sleeve here and up here at the notch. I'm going to pin the shoulder point as the shoulder seam. And there's should be a dot or a notch there for you to follow on your pattern. And pin this one here. And right about there. Now I'm also matching stripes on this thing, so there is your t-shirt sleeve pinned in. Now we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew it in. Narrow zigzag stitch that you've used on everything else. I'm going to come over here and do a 3/8 inch seam on the sleeve. When you get to the sleeve cap, then you're going to ease them in together because they're actually, one is convex and one is concave. So you're going to kind of stretch them to fit together. All stays the same kind of curve until you get to the notch. When you get to the notch, then you have to start easing these together. And you just kind of stretch the sleeve to fit. You can see how those are easing together. And you'll end up with a nice sleeve, nice smooth sleeve. And as you come back down the back side, now see, there's one instance where you do want to stretch with the knit, and that is to stretch the sleeve to fit the armhole at the sleeve cap. You're just going to want to press these seams toward the shoulder. And you can see you've got a really nice set-in sleeve here. Some pressing will be necessary a little bit on the cap, but it's all really nicely put in. And look at my stripes match. You're going to repeat this process with the other sleeve. All right, so now that we have the sleeves in, I'm going to go ahead and I pinned the side seam together. And I'm matching stripes, so rather than doing it on camera, it takes a little while to make sure you have all the stripes lined up. So I did it off camera so I wouldn't bore you to death. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna sew this side seam. Same thing, narrow zigzag stitch. That's all we've used so far if you're taking notes. And since you're going kind of north-south directions, you definitely don't need to worry that it's going to stretch on you a whole lot, but you'd want to take care not to stretch it. Right, so you've got one side seam done. Now I'm going to repeat this process with the other side, and I will be back. All right, so now that I have my complete t-shirt sewn together, I'm going to do some finishing touches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press up the hem, and you can do this a number of ways. Hemming knits, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I'm going to go ahead and press this side seam open. As much as this Liverpool fabric will allow me to. Okay, so I'm going to turn that up, and I'm actually going to use this stay tape. So this is knit stay tape from SewKeys-E, and it's wonderful. I go ahead and press that down, and it presses down just like interfacing. Here's the package. It's this right here, SewKeys-E, and here's the roll. It comes, I think it was 25 yards on this roll, and I think it was $9. It does wonders for knit hems. It gives it bodies, so when you're doing that double twin needle stitching, it'll actually give it something to grab onto. You want to do like 10 full seconds. I'm gonna go ahead and finish all the way around, and then I'm also going to do the arms the same way. Okay, and then you're just going to turn your hem up and press it after you've applied the SewKeys-E. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing with the arms, only I'm going to use a 1/2 inch wide of this, so I'm actually going to cut it in half to go around the arms. And it's a lot easier to cut it off camera, but yeah, so I'm actually going to go ahead and cut that. Okay, so I have my twin needle in, and it's a twin stretch needle. Make sure you get either a ballpoint or a stretch version of the twin needle. This is a Singer. I don't usually use Singer stuff that much, but this needle has been great. I think I inherited that from someone. I don't remember where. Anyway, you have your 2 spools of thread that come down, 1 in the bobbin. You do not need to buy a second color of thread. You can use your, you can use a bobbin for the second spool, which is what I normally do. It's plenty. All right, so first I'm going to go ahead and do my hem. Just going to start at one of the side seams and put the needle down in the fabric, and you're just going to sew like normal. I can feel that the hem, the edge of the fabric underneath is about there. So I'm going to kind of stay even with this stripe. Now, you definitely do not want to stretch as you're going around. This is a stretch stitch, so the stitch will stretch with the fabric. Boy, say that 10 times. All right, so you don't want to stretch it, okay? Because otherwise you'll get a wavy hem. So just go ahead and guide it through without stretching. You can see the nice hem that we're getting here. And it's, if I had a cover stitch machine, I would use it, but since I don't, this is the best I can do. I use a stitch length of about 3, just because it's top stitching, and I like to use a little bit longer stitch with top stitching. If you use too short of a stitch, it'll almost look like a tunnel instead of double stitching. You don't want to do that. When I get close, I like to go ahead and snip it. Then you back stitch just like normal. Pull to the back. And here is your finished hem. Now press that, because there's a little bit of waviness that you're always going to have, but once that's pressed out, that'll be gone. Very nice hem. What I like to do with sleeves, I do have a free arm, but this is just as easy to turn them inside out and do them this way. All right, do the same thing on the sleeves, only a little closer to the edge because we didn't turn as much up. And then when you're done with the sleeves, you're going to go ahead and go around the neckband. I'm going to start in the center back where we put this, start at that seam where we joined the neckband to the body, and just go right below that. And we're just going to kind of push that seam allowance from the neckband toward the body of the shirt. And we're just going to double stitch all the way around. Very close to the edge. Now you could do this, you know, right after you do the neckband, but since I only like to put the double needle on once, save it for the end. All right, so you have a finished t-shirt. You're going to go over and you're going to give this one good press, and you have a finished t-shirt. I hope you enjoyed making a t-shirt. I sure enjoyed making one with you. I love the way mine came out. I think this might be my travel outfit as I travel down to help my brother after his surgery. I just would remind you that it's very possible that we may skip a week in Friday sewing school depending on how long I'm with my brother. So if there's a video missing next week, I thank you ahead of time for your understanding. And but we'll pick right back up. My next plan is going to be to sew something with a neck binding rather than a band, so I can show that process to you. A few people asked me to do a sew along with the Summer Basics tank that I love that was in my other videos. I love that pattern. The thing is, it's the same thing as a t-shirt except that it's binding instead of bands. So I think I'd just like to go ahead and show you how to put the bands on, and then I think you can handle the pattern from there because you know how to do a t-shirt already. And then coming up in the next few weeks, I think what we'll do is we'll take our list of skills also, and we'll go over and see how very many of those we can check off, which I was looking the other day, and it's actually quite a lot. So we're progressing in our list of basic skills. I think you guys have definitely ought to give yourselves a hand if you've come this far and stuck with me, because that means you're well on your way to being a good sewist. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you next week or possibly the week after.